Hey guys, it's Christopher Tom here. If you've been on the internet, you've probably heard something about the Butch Hartman drama. Now I get it dude, there's like a bajillion other videos about this, but please hear me out because I think I have something to add. The canned version is that Butch Hartman asked his fans for $250,000 to fund his family-friendly streaming service called Oaxis. Shortly after Butch surprisingly reached his goal, a video of him speaking at a Christian event surfaced, and a lot of people were outraged because they thought he had scammed people into unknowingly funding a Christian service, and that he wants to indoctrinate your kids. More specifically, I want to talk about how the evidence that's been presented doesn't necessarily point to Oaxis being a Christian service. Now first of all, the main selling point of Oaxis is that it's a family-friendly streaming service, so it kind of makes sense that he wants to promote it to Christians, because that's a demographic that will most likely be on board with that. I want to go back to 240 in his speech, where Butch says,
"My point is, my work has touched people's hearts, because it has the gospel inside of it."
He then talks about how you don't hear about Christ in his shows, but you feel him.
It's like a Trojan horse. I have Christ inside of me, and Christ is inside my shows, but you never hear about Christ in your show, but you feel him.
This point is pretty silly because as somebody who watched The Fairly Odd Parents a lot as a kid, I can say there's nothing religious about it. But what I want to bring attention to is the fact that Butch can point to a show like The Fairly Odd Parents and use it as an example of a show with Christian values just shows how loosely he means the word Christian. And my theory is that he was doing this to appeal to the audience that he was currently speaking to. Another point that I hear a lot is about Butch trying to convert kids to Christianity. Now there is a part in the speech where Butch says that he could start a Christian network and get the Christians, but he wants to reach everybody.
If I put a Christian network out there, no problem, I've got the Christians, that's cool, but I'm missing the entire other spectrum of the world.
I can see how this sounds if you already go into it with the notion that Oaxis is a Christian service. But when you consider the context that he's speaking to a Christian audience, it kind of just seems like he's saying to them, hey, this is not going to be a faith-based network. You have to keep in mind that there's also a quote where Butch says, this is not going to be the church network.
This is not the church channel, it's not Golden Eagle Broadcasting or Daystar. God bless those people, it's amazing. My stuff has got to be today.
But I do think that in his attempts to make Oaxis sound appealing to the audience he was speaking to, he definitely overreached and said some things that sound very odd to his main audience. There's a pretty dramatic contrast between the tone of his speech there and the tone of his general social media presence, and ultimately, I think that is what alarmed people. So couple Butch's confusing presentation with the sensationalist claims of somebody like Pie Guy Rules, and it suddenly becomes very easy to see everything Butch says here through the lens of Butch is a scammer, Butch wants to create a Christian service, Butch wants to indoctrinate kids. I forgot to mention this while I was filming, but Butch has been pretty openly Christian throughout his career. I think what he's trying to do with his social media presence is to speak from a more neutral ground to increase his overall appeal. So for people to see the speech where he speaks very openly about his faith, kinda rubs them the wrong way because it's not really the Butch that they're used to. But I don't think he was being dishonest in anything he said. He never said that Oaxis was gonna be a Christian service. And as soon as sensationalist claims like that popped up, it became very easy for people to take quotes from his speech out of context. And don't get me wrong, there are lots of legitimate criticisms that can be leveled at Butch. For example, his attitude towards criticism where he's like, ooh, you can't criticize me unless you're a cartoonist like myself. Like, dude, you don't have to be a chef to criticize food. And then there was the interview with Tara Strong where he made the very insensitive joke that she had something to do with the suicide of Mary Kay Bergman, the original voice for Timmy Turner.
No, she had a very prolific career. She was awesome.
Doing great, and then she ended up passing away, and I think Tara actually had something to do with that, and so that's probably that was probably your fault.
And I'm not even gonna talk about his comments about social media and entertainment being correlated with depression and suicide, because that's a whole nother topic. There's definitely been a lot of reasonable criticisms leveled at the guy, but I think the claims of it being a Christian network where he's trying to indoctrinate your kids are sensationalist and unsubstantiated. I think people got too caught up in the hate bandwagon, and they didn't really take the time to research it and think it through as well as they could have. But let me know in the comments what you think. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.